Captain Jack Reynolds stood on the bridge of the Defiance, his eyes fixed on the main screen. Earth, his home, burned in the distance. Blue oceans turned black as smoke filled the atmosphere. The once green continents glowed red with fire. His hands gripped the command rail until his knuckles turned white. "Status report," he said, his voice steady despite the pain in his heart. "All major cities are gone, sir," replied Lieutenant Anna Mills from the tactical station. Her face was pale, but her voice remained professional. "The Combine's orbital bombardment continues. Our last defense platforms have fallen." Reynolds nodded slowly. The Combine, a group of 7 advanced alien species that ruled most of the galaxy, had finally found Earth after a decade of hunting humans across space. For 10 years, humanity had fought, hidden, and run. Now, there was nowhere left to go. "Are we the last ship?" he asked. Marcus Gray, the chief engineer, checked his console. "Yes, Captain. The rest of the fleet was destroyed in orbit. We're all that's left." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. The Defiance was humanity's most advanced warship, but it was just one vessel against the hundreds of combined ships that now surrounded Earth. Dr. Tom Weber, the science officer, approached Reynolds. "Captain, it's time," he said quietly. Reynolds knew what Weber meant. For the past 5 years, the best human scientists had worked in secret, building something that might save their species. They called it Project Oblivion, a last resort if Earth ever fell. "Are you sure it will work?" Reynolds asked. Weber's eyes showed doubt, but his voice was firm. "No, sir. The quantum drive is only theoretical. We've run simulations, but there's never been a real test. And if it fails, then we die knowing we tried everything," Weber said. Reynolds turned to his bridge crew, 50 men and women who represented the last free humans in the galaxy. "The Combine thinks they've won today," he said. "They believe they've finished what they started 10 years ago, when they decided that humans were too unpredictable, too dangerous to join their perfect galactic community." He walked to the center of the bridge. "They've killed billions of us. They've chased us across thousands of light years. But today they learned that humans don't die easily." Reynolds turned to Weber. "Prepare the quantum drive." Weber moved to a special console that had been installed just a month ago. He entered a complex sequence of commands. "Captain," Mills called out, "the Combined flagship is hailing us." Reynolds nodded. "Put it on screen." The image of Earth disappeared, replaced by the face of Admiral Kor. Like all members of the Vex species, Kor had gray skin, 4 eyes, and no visible mouth. He spoke through a translator device attached to his neck. "Human vessel," Kor said, his voice flat and mechanical. "Your resistance is impressive but pointless. Surrender now, and we will allow your crew to live in containment." Reynolds smiled. "Admiral Kor, you've chased me across half the galaxy. You should know by now that humans don't surrender." "Then you will be destroyed," Kor replied. "Your species has proven too violent and unpredictable. The Council of 7 cannot allow such chaos in our ordered galaxy." "Before you kill us," Reynolds said, "I want you to remember this moment. Remember that you didn't just defeat humanity today. You created something much worse." Kor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion among the Vex. "Explain." "You're about to find out," Reynolds said. He cut the transmission and turned to Weber. "Status: quantum drive at full power, Captain. Coordinates are set." Reynolds took one last look at Earth on the secondary screen. His home. His planet. Now a funeral pyre for billions. "Execute," he ordered. Weber pressed the final command. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a low hum filled the ship, growing louder until it vibrated through the deck plates. Blue light surged from the engine section, washing over the bridge. Outside the Defiance, the combined ships detected a strange energy signature. They had never seen anything like it before. a quantum field that seemed to bend reality around the human vessel. Admiral Kor watched from his flagship as the Defiance began to glow with blue energy. His science officer reported energy readings that defied their understanding of physics. "Destroy that ship now," Kor ordered. The combined fleet fired hundreds of energy beams at the Defiance. But it was too late. The quantum field expanded in a flash of brilliant blue light, and then the human ship simply vanished. Not destroyed, not jumped to hyperspace, but completely removed from normal spacetime. The combined weapons passed through empty space where the Defiance had been just seconds before. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Kor felt something he had never experienced in his 300 years of life, a cold feeling that humans called fear. Intelligence reports had mentioned rumors of a human superweapon called Oblivion, but nothing concrete had ever been found. "Track that ship," he ordered his crew. "Impossible, Admiral," his science officer replied. "The energy signature doesn't match any known form of travel. It's as if they've stepped outside reality itself." 3 days later, the Council of Seven met virtually to declare victory over humanity. Representatives of the 7 ruling species congratulated each other on eliminating the human threat once and for all. Only Admiral Kor remained silent during the celebration. "You seem troubled, Admiral," said Councillor Pax of the Arn species. "You led our forces to a great victory. You should be proud." "The last human ship escaped," Kor replied. "Until we know where it went and what Oblivion means, our victory is incomplete." The Council dismissed his concerns. They ordered the combined fleet to begin colonizing the outer planets of the human solar system. Earth itself would be left alone for a century, until the radiation from their bombardment faded. Against the Council's wishes, Kor ordered a permanent monitoring station to remain near Earth. "We must be vigilant," he told his officers. "The humans survived our previous attempts to exterminate them. We cannot assume they are gone." 3 months passed. The Combine began to establish bases on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. Ships arrived with colonists eager to claim new territories. Then, without warning, thousands of quantum signatures appeared simultaneously across Combined space, each matching the energy pattern of the vanished human ship. The message that accompanied each signature was simple, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect Combined standard language. "We are Oblivion. Remember Earth." And the Combine began to learn what it meant to fear. Blue light faded from the bridge of the Defiance as the quantum drive powered down. Captain Reynolds blinked, trying to clear the spots from his vision. The violent shaking had stopped, and an eerie silence filled the ship. "Status report," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "All systems returning to normal," Marcus Gray said from the engineering station. "The quantum drive is offline but intact." Lieutenant Mills checked her tactical display. "We're somewhere else, Captain. No sign of the combined fleet. No sign of Earth either." Dr. Weber worked frantically at his science station. "This can't be right," he muttered, running the scan again. "What is it, Doctor?" Reynolds asked. Weber looked up, his face pale with shock. "According to stellar positioning, we've moved about 20 light-years from Earth." "That's impossible," Mills said. "Even the fastest combined ships would take weeks to cover that distance." "There's more," Weber continued, "based on stellar drift patterns." He paused, checking his data again. "Captain, we haven't just traveled through space. We've traveled through time as well." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. "How far?" Reynolds finally asked. 5 years into the past," Weber replied. "The quantum drive didn't just move us through space. It took us outside normal spacetime completely." Reynolds walked to the main view screen, which now showed an unfamiliar star system. 5 years in the past. 5 years before Earth fell. 5 years before billions died. "Can we go back?" he asked. "Can we warn Earth?" Weber shook his head. "The quantum equations are incredibly complex. I don't think we can control where or when we emerge with any precision." He paused. "And even if we could, there's the question of temporal paradoxes. If we prevent the events that led us to activate the drive in the first place, we might erase ourselves from existence, Reynolds finished. Or worse, Weber said. We could create a cascading temporal collapse that might destroy reality itself. Reynolds called his senior officers to the conference room. Mills, Weber, and Gray sat around the table, all still processing what had happened. Let me understand this, Reynolds said to Weber. We can't go back to our time, and we can't safely change history to prevent Earth's destruction. Correct, Weber said. But there's something else I discovered. He activated a holographic display showing the Defiance. The quantum field has permanently altered our ship. We exist slightly out of phase with normal spacetime. What does that mean? Mills asked. It means, Weber explained, that we can activate the quantum drive again. Each jump seems to create a temporary bridge between different points in spacetime. Theoretically, we could appear anywhere in the galaxy, at any point within this 5-year window. Gray leaned forward. And the Combine wouldn't be able to track us. No, Weber said. We'd be essentially untraceable. We could appear, take action, and disappear before they could respond. Reynolds stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. 5 years, he said quietly. 5 years until Earth falls. He turned back to his officers. We can't change our past without risking everything. But we can still fight back. How? Mills asked. We're just one ship. A ship that can appear anywhere, anytime, without warning. Reynolds said, his eyes hardening. We can study the Combine's weaknesses. We can gather intelligence on their operations. We can sabotage their fleets and supply lines. We'd be ghosts, Gray said, understanding dawning on his face, striking from nowhere and vanishing before they could fight back. Reynolds nodded. They took everything from us. Our homes, our families, our future. His voice grew cold. Now we become their nightmare. We become the vengeance of humanity. We become Oblivion, Mills said softly. Reynolds looked at each of his officers in turn. This isn't a decision I can make alone. If we do this, we accept that we can never go home again. We exist outside our own timeline now. One by one, his officers nodded. Then it's decided, Reynolds said. Dr. Weber, how soon can we jump again? The drive needs 12 hours to recharge, Weber replied. But there's one more thing you should know. Each jump puts enormous strain on the quantum field. Eventually, it will become unstable. How many jumps do we have? Reynolds asked. I don't know, Weber admitted. Maybe dozens, maybe hundreds, but not infinite. Reynolds nodded grimly. Then we'll make each one count. 3 weeks later, on a remote Combine outpost in the Toth CD system, alarms blared as a ship appeared from nowhere. Before the stunned aliens could respond, precision strikes destroyed their communication array and defense systems. The mysterious ship vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving behind only a message broadcast in perfect Combine language. Remember Earth. Similar attacks occurred across Combine space in the following months. Supply depots were raided. Research stations were infiltrated, their data stolen. Communication relays were destroyed. Each time, the attacks followed the same pattern. A ship would appear without warning, strike with surgical precision, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. And each time, the same message was left behind. Remember Earth. The Council of Seven met in emergency session, their usual confidence shaken. These attacks make no sense, Councillor Pax of the Arn said. The targets seem random. There's no strategic pattern. There is a pattern, Admiral Kor said, stepping forward. The humans are gathering intelligence, learning our weaknesses, studying our technology. Impossible, another counselor scoffed. Humans are primitive compared to us. Their faster-than-light technology is centuries behind ours. Then how do you explain a ship that can appear anywhere without warning? Kor asked. One that our sensors can't track. One that seems to know our security protocols before we implement them. The council fell silent. "This is the human ship that escaped Earth's destruction," Core continued. "The one using technology they called Oblivion." "But that was 5 years in the future," a counselor objected. "Yes," Core said. "And that's what troubles me most of all." Back on the Defiance, Reynolds marked another successful mission. They had stolen navigational data from a combined command post, adding it to their growing library of intelligence. "They're starting to fear us," Mills said with grim satisfaction. Reynolds nodded. "Good. Let them feel what we felt, helpless against an enemy they can't fight." Dr. Weber entered the bridge, his face serious. "Captain, I've been studying the quantum field. Each jump is making it more unstable. We may have fewer jumps left than I first thought." Reynolds looked at the star map showing all their successful strikes against the Combine. "Then we need to make our remaining jumps count," he said. "It's time to move to the next phase of our plan." "Which is?" Mills asked. Reynolds' eyes gleamed with cold determination. "To turn the Combine's own weapons against them." 3 years had passed since the Defiance began its campaign against the Combine. The lone human ship had transformed from a desperate last stand into the most feared vessel in the galaxy. Admiral Core stood before the Council of Seven, his 4 eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the latest attack. A combined weapons research facility reduced to ruins. "This makes 37 strikes in the past month alone," Core said. "The human ship is becoming bolder." Counselor Pax slammed his fist on the table. "Enough. This single vessel has made fools of our entire fleet. Our people are beginning to question our strength." "The humans call their ship Oblivion for a reason," Core replied. "It appears and disappears at will. It seems to know our movements before we make them." "Then find it," another counselor demanded. "Whatever technology they're using, it cannot be perfect." Core nodded. "I studied every attack pattern. There must be limitations to their quantum drive. No technology can operate indefinitely without leaving traces." The Council reached a unanimous decision. Admiral Core would lead a special task force with a single mission: destroy the human ship at any cost. He would have access to resources normally reserved for the highest level of combined government. "Do not fail us, Admiral," Counselor Pax warned. "Your reputation will not protect you forever." Far away, in an asteroid field circling a dead star, the Defiance had established a hidden base. Large sections of hollowed-out asteroids housed supplies, stolen technology, and a growing network of allies. Captain Reynolds studied the information displayed on his command console. Data stolen from the Combine's most secure systems. 3 years of jumps had given them unprecedented access to enemy intelligence. "Lieutenant Mills, what's our current status?" he asked. "We've made contact with resistance groups on 12 planets," Mills reported. "Species who were conquered by the Combine generations ago. They're ready to help when the time comes." Dr. Weber entered the command center, his face showing the strain of the past 3 years. "Captain, we need to talk privately." In Reynolds' office, Weber displayed a holographic model of the quantum field surrounding the Defiance. "The field is deteriorating faster than I predicted," Weber said. "Each jump damages space-time a little more. The tiers aren't healing properly." "How many more jumps do we have?" Reynolds asked. 20, maybe 30 at most," Weber replied. "After that, the quantum field will collapse." "And what happens to us when it collapses?" Weber's expression turned grim. "Best case, we're stranded wherever we happen to be. Worst case, the collapse creates a cascading temporal event that could tear apart reality in this entire region of space." Reynolds sat heavily in his chair. "Can you stabilize it?" "I'm trying," Weber said. "But I need more advanced technology than what we have. The Combine's research into quantum physics is centuries ahead of ours." A knock at the door interrupted them. Marcus Gray entered, his normally calm face animated with excitement. "Captain, I think I found something," he said, placing a data chip on the desk. "It's from the weapons facility we raided last week. The hologram changed to show complex technical schematics. The Combine has been developing a quantum stabilization matrix, Gray explained. It's designed to prevent exactly the kind of collapse we're facing. Could we adapt it for the Defiance? Reynolds asked. Gray nodded. Better than that. We could use the quantum instability as a weapon, one that could defeat the Combine without destroying everything else. Explain, Reynolds said. If we can control the collapse, Gray said, we could direct it at specific targets. It would create a localized temporal distortion that would remove those targets from our timeline completely. You're talking about erasing the Combine from existence, Weber said, his voice barely above a whisper. Just their leadership and main fleet, Gray clarified. But to do it, we'd need access to their central power hub on their homeworld. Reynolds stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the asteroid field that had been their home base. The most heavily defended location in the galaxy, he said quietly. Yes, sir, Gray acknowledged. But we might have an advantage they don't expect. Which is time itself, Gray said with a small smile. We exist outside normal time. What if we could use that more directly? Admiral Corps' task force had been hunting the Defiance for 6 months. They had analyzed every attack, searching for patterns, for weaknesses, for anything that might help them predict where the human ship would strike next. Corps sat alone in his quarters, studying the data yet again. Something about the attacks bothered him. The humans weren't just causing damage. They were gathering specific technologies and materials. He pulled up a list of everything reported missing after each raid. Power couplings, quantum stabilizers, temporal sensors, pieces of a puzzle he couldn't yet see. A sudden realization struck him. He accessed the most classified Combine research files, ones that even the Council rarely reviewed. There, he found theoretical work on manipulating timelines, on weapons that could alter reality itself. They're building something, he whispered to himself. Something that could threaten not just our fleets, but our very existence. Back on the Defiance, Reynolds called his senior officers together. The time had come to make a difficult decision. The quantum drive is failing, he told them. We have perhaps 20 jumps left before it collapses completely. Then we need to make them count, Mills said. Reynolds nodded. Dr. Weber and Mr. Gray have proposed a plan. It's dangerous, possibly suicidal, but it might be our only chance to strike a truly devastating blow against the Combine. He activated a hologram showing the Combine homeworld. We're going to hit them at their center of power. But to do that, we need to attempt something that's never been done before. What exactly? Mills asked. Reynolds looked at each of his officers in turn. We're going to recruit ourselves. Sir, Mills looked confused. The quantum drive doesn't just move us through space and time, Reynolds explained. It moves us outside of normal space-time completely. Theoretically, we could use our remaining jumps to make contact with the Defiance from different points in our own timeline. Multiple versions of our ship, Gray added, all working together for one final attack. The officers exchanged nervous glances. This violates every rule of temporal mechanics, Weber warned. The paradoxes could be catastrophic. More catastrophic than the extinction of our species, Reynolds asked quietly. No one had an answer for that. Begin preparations, Reynolds ordered. We make our first temporal contact jump in 48 hours. As the meeting ended, Reynolds remained alone, staring at the hologram of the Combine homeworld. In less than 2 years, Earth would burn. Billions would die. But perhaps, just perhaps, humanity would have its vengeance after all. Remember Earth, he whispered to himself. The quantum drive hummed to life as the Defiance prepared for its most dangerous jump yet. Captain Reynolds stood on the bridge, his face showing none of the fear he felt inside. All systems ready, Captain, Marcus Gray reported from engineering. Temporal coordinates locked. Reynolds nodded. Remember, we're aiming for 6 months ago, when we raided the Combine research station near Proxima. We need to make contact with ourselves before that mission. Dr. Weber monitored the quantum field readings carefully. The field is already showing signs of instability. This jump will be rough. Proceed, Reynolds ordered. Blue light washed over the bridge as the quantum drive activated. The ship shuddered violently, metal groaning under the strain of bending reality. Then, with a final lurch, the Defiance jumped. When the blue light faded, they found themselves in empty space near a familiar star system. Temporal jump successful, Weber announced, surprise evident in his voice. According to stellar positioning, we've arrived exactly when we planned, 6 months in our past. Any sign of us? Reynolds asked. Lieutenant Mills checked her scanner. Yes, sir. The other Defiance is preparing to attack the research station. They haven't detected us yet. Reynolds took a deep breath. Open a secure channel. Use the emergency captain's code. On the other Defiance, 6 months younger Captain Reynolds was reviewing final attack plans when his communication console chimed with a special alert, a code that only he knew. This is impossible, he muttered, checking the source. That's my personal authorization code. With hesitation, he accepted the transmission. The screen flickered to life, showing himself, an older, more weathered version, but unmistakably his own face. I know this is hard to believe, the older Reynolds said, but I am you, from 6 months in your future. We don't have much time, so listen carefully. The younger Reynolds listened in stunned silence as his future self explained the plan, how they would recruit multiple versions of the Defiance from different points in their timeline to launch a coordinated attack on the combined homeworld. This violates everything we know about temporal mechanics, the younger Reynolds finally said. Yes, his older self agreed. But it's our only chance to strike a blow that the combined can't recover from. Will you join us? After a moment of consideration, the younger Reynolds nodded. What do you need me to do? Over the next month, the original Defiance made 5 more temporal jumps, each time recruiting another version of themselves from different points in their campaign against the combine. Each jump was more dangerous than the last, the quantum field becoming increasingly unstable. By the time they had assembled 7 versions of the ship, each commanded by Reynolds from a different point in his personal timeline, the quantum drive was on the verge of complete failure. The 7 captains met virtually to coordinate their final plan. It was a strange gathering. 7 versions of the same man, each marked by different experiences and hardships, but all sharing the same determination. The quantum stabilization matrix is nearly complete, the youngest Reynolds reported. My crew has finished adapting the technology we stole from the combine. Good, the original Reynolds said. My version of the Defiance will coordinate the attack. We'll each hit different targets around the combined capital simultaneously. What about the paradoxes? Asked another Reynolds. Having multiple versions of us in the same timeline must be creating massive temporal distortions. Dr. Weber, attending the meeting with the original Reynolds, nodded grimly. It is. The fabric of space-time in this region is starting to unravel. We've detected temporal echoes, events happening before they should, or multiple times in slightly different ways. All the more reason to strike now, the original Reynolds said. We have one chance at this. If we succeed, the combined leadership and their main fleet will be removed from our timeline completely. And if we fail? Asked one of the other Reynolds. Then the quantum collapse might take us all with it, the original Reynolds admitted. But either way, the combined will never forget that they faced humanity. Across the galaxy, Admiral Core noticed the temporal distortions too. His science team reported strange anomalies, quantum signatures appearing simultaneously in multiple locations, events occurring out of sequence, sensor readings that contradicted basic laws of physics. It's happening, he told his officers. Whatever weapon the humans are building, they're ready to use it. He accessed the most secure combined communication channel. This is Admiral Core to all fleet commanders. Code Black. I repeat, Code Black. Throughout combined space, ships received the emergency order and began converging on their homeworld. For the first time in centuries, the Combine's territories were left largely undefended as they concentrated their forces to protect their center of power. The Council of Seven met in emergency session, their usual calm replaced by barely contained panic. "Your task force has failed, Admiral," Counselor Pax accused. "This human ship has now become a threat to our very existence. I warned you from the beginning that we were facing something beyond our understanding." Kor replied sharply. "The humans have found a way to manipulate time itself. Our standard tactics are useless against such an enemy." "What would you have us do?" another counselor asked. "Prepare for an attack unlike anything we've ever seen," Kor said, "and pray to whatever gods you believe in that our defenses hold." On the original Defiance, Reynolds watched as reports came in from across Combined space. Their enemies were falling into the trap perfectly, consolidating their forces around their homeworld, exactly where the 7 ships would strike. "The Combined fleet is gathering," Mills reported, "just as we predicted." "And our allies?" Reynolds asked. "The resistance groups on 12 subjugated worlds have begun their uprisings," Mills confirmed. "The Combine's outer territories are in chaos." Reynolds nodded in satisfaction. "Then it's time. Send the signal to the other ships. We jump in 12 hours. Dr. Weber approached Reynolds privately after the meeting. "Captain, there's something you should know before we commit to this." "What is it, Doctor?" "The temporal calculations." Weber hesitated. "When all 7 quantum signatures converge, the resulting paradox will almost certainly destroy all versions of the Defiance. None of us will survive this attack." Reynolds was quiet for a moment. Then he placed a hand on Weber's shoulder. "We've been living on borrowed time since Earth fell, Tom. All that matters now is making sure humanity has a future." As the final preparations were made, Reynolds recorded a message to be broadcast to all human colonies and outposts that still remained hidden throughout the galaxy. "This is Captain Jack Reynolds of the Defiance. Tomorrow, we strike at the heart of the Combine. Whatever happens, remember that humanity never surrendered. Remember Earth." The countdown to their final jump had begun. The day Earth was destined to fall had arrived. In the original timeline, the massive Combined fleet was gathering around humanity's homeworld, preparing for the final bombardment that would end the human species. But history was about to change. Admiral Kor stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by the largest collection of Combined warships ever assembled. Over 3,000 vessels formed a protective ring around their homeworld, their weapons ready to destroy any threat. "Status report," Kor ordered. "All fleets in position, Admiral," his first officer replied. No sign of the human vessel. Kor's 4 eyes narrowed. He had studied the humans long enough to know they wouldn't simply abandon their plan. "Keep all sensors at maximum. They'll come." A junior officer approached with urgency. "Admiral, we're receiving an emergency transmission from the Earth Assault Fleet." "Put it through," Kor ordered. The screen showed another Combined commander, his image flickering with static. "Admiral Kor, the human ship, it just appeared near Earth. But there's something wrong. Our sensors are detecting multiple quantum signatures, all identical to the first human vessel." Kor felt cold fear spread through his body. "Get your fleet back here now." "We're trying, but..." The transmission cut off abruptly. "What happened?" Kor demanded. "Unknown, sir," his communications officer replied. "We've lost all contact with the Earth Assault Fleet." Before Kor could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. "Multiple quantum signatures detected," an officer shouted. 7 distinct readings, all matching the human ship. They're appearing simultaneously around the capital. On the original Defiance, Captain Reynolds watched the tactical display as all 7 versions of his ship emerged from their quantum jumps. Each appeared at precisely the coordinates they had planned, surrounding the Combined homeworld at strategic points. All ships reporting successful arrival. Lieutenant Mills announced. "The quantum stabilization matrix is holding. For now." Reynolds opened a channel to the other 6 versions of the Defiance. "This is it. Begin Phase 1. Across the combined defense perimeter, the 7 human ships began their attack. They didn't target the combined vessels directly. Instead, they fired specially modified quantum torpedoes at seemingly empty points in space. Where the torpedoes detonated, reality itself seemed to warp. Swirling vortices of blue energy appeared, growing larger with each passing second. The temporal disruption fields are forming, Dr. Weber reported, monitoring the readings carefully. The quantum matrix is channeling the instability exactly as we planned. Reynolds nodded grimly. Begin Phase 2. Each version of the Defiance activated its quantum drive simultaneously, but instead of jumping away, they directed the energy outward, feeding the growing temporal vortices. On his flagship, Admiral Kor watched in horror as reality began to tear apart around them. What are they doing? His science officer's voice trembled as he answered. They're creating controlled quantum collapses. The fabric of space-time is being warped around us. Destroy those ships now, Kor ordered. The combined fleet opened fire, thousands of energy beams lancing out toward the 7 human vessels. But it was too late. The temporal vortices had grown too large, absorbing the energy of the combined weapons and growing even stronger. One by one, combined ships on the outer defense ring began to vanish, not exploding, not being destroyed, but simply ceasing to exist as they were caught in the expanding temporal distortions. We're losing ships, Kor's first officer reported, panic in his voice. They're being removed from our timeline completely. Kor stared at the tactical display, finally understanding the full scope of the human plan. This is Oblivion, he whispered. Not a weapon, but an event, the erasure of the combined from reality itself. On the Defiance, systems were failing as the quantum drive pushed beyond its limits. Sparks flew from control panels, and the hull groaned under the strain of warping reality. Quantum field at critical levels, Weber warned. We have minutes at most before complete collapse. Reynolds opened a final channel to his crew. This was always a one-way mission. I want you all to know that your sacrifice will ensure humanity's survival. He paused. It has been my honor to serve with you. Similar scenes played out on the other 6 versions of the ship as each Reynolds prepared his crew for the end. The original Reynolds opened a communication channel to all combined frequencies. This is Captain Jack Reynolds of the Earth ship Defiance. You thought you destroyed humanity today. Instead, you created your own destruction. Remember Earth. In a desperate move, Admiral Kor ordered his flagship to jump to hyperspace, attempting to escape the expanding temporal distortions. As his ship accelerated away from the combined homeworld, he watched on the viewscreen as the 7 human vessels began to glow with blinding blue light. Get us out of here, he ordered. The 7 versions of the Defiance moved closer together, their quantum fields merging. As they converged, the temporal paradox reached its peak. Multiple versions of the same ship couldn't exist in the same point in space-time. The contradictions were too great for reality to handle. In a blinding flash of blue-white light, the 7 ships seemed to merge into one, creating what witnesses later called the Oblivion Wave, a sphere of distorted space-time that expanded outward at impossible speed, engulfing the combined homeworld and most of their assembled fleet. When the wave dissipated, there was nothing. The combined homeworld, their leadership, and thousands of their most powerful warships were simply gone, not destroyed, but erased from the timeline completely, as if they had never existed. Throughout the galaxy, the effects were immediate and profound. On planets conquered by the combined generations ago, resistance fighters looked up to see their oppressors' ships vanish from orbit. Communications from combined governors and administrators suddenly went silent. The empire that had ruled for thousands of years collapsed in a single moment. And on Earth, something strange happened. As the timeline adjusted to the massive changes, history rewrote itself. The combined attack never came. The billions who had died lived on, unaware of how close they had come to extinction or of the sacrifice made to save them. 5 years after the event that became known as the Vanishing, Humans had taken their place among the free species of the galaxy. The story of the Defiance and its brave crew became legend, even though few understood what had really happened. On a remote planet, far from major trade routes, an alien with 4 eyes tended a small garden outside a simple home. Admiral Kor, the only high-ranking Combine officer to escape the Oblivion wave, lived in quiet exile, haunted by memories of an empire that now had never existed. Each night he looked up at the stars, remembering how one human ship had undone everything his people had built. He alone remembered both timelines, the one where the Combine ruled supreme, and this new reality where they were nothing but a fading memory. The humans had a saying he'd come to appreciate: those who seek to destroy others often destroy themselves. The Combine had tried to exterminate humanity, only to be erased by human ingenuity and sacrifice. As Kor watched a shooting star cross the night sky, he whispered the words he would never forget. Remember Earth.